Hi, everybody. This is Jack McCullough again. I'm joined today by Ken Stillwell. Ken is the CFO at Pega, which is one of the real hot technology companies in the Boston area. Morning, Ken. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Good to be here. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Well, Pega is certainly a very visible company in Boston. I mean, everybody knows about it. I think it's fair to say it's iconic. Why don't you tell me a little about how things have shifted at Pega because of COVID and how you have changed your strategy a little bit for the new realities?
Sure. So, although COVID has been, I think, a very challenging time for many of us, both, personally and professionally, I do think as a company, our employees and quite frankly, many of our peers and our clients have been quite resilient on the response to COVID. The ability to, get a kind of a different way of working, to try to find collaboration tools that you can leverage. And so in general, I would say we've done an amazing job trying to keep the business moving forward and really trying to focus on our clients and what they need from us. I think there are a couple things that are very different. First, I think you have to understand that people are in uncomfortable environments, right? Not everybody has a good working space at home. Not everybody has the ability to minimize distractions from children and other things. And I think that there's also some level of a lack of social engagement that happens just doing things virtually that not everyone is comfortable with. So I think it requires a high level of empathy, which has always been one of our core values at Pega, to be empathetic for not only our employees but what our clients are trying to achieve. So I actually think we've quite frankly done pretty well in COVID in terms of keeping the base of the company and the mission moving forward.
That's great to hear. And I mentioned to you earlier, I interviewed for the company in the 1990s, and even then, Alan created one of the hottest tech companies in the area, in the whole country, as a matter of fact. And kind of wasn't aware of it. When you talk to him, all he talked about was the company culture and things like that, and was a little reluctant to brag about some of the great things they'd been doing. So I'm not surprised that the culture there is so supportive. So you're the CFO of the company. What are some of the challenges you personally are facing in the business these days?
So Pega's going through a number of transformations, you might call them, kind of at the same time. And as a CFO, that becomes increasingly important for me to play a role of somewhat of driving the transformation, but also providing transparency and visibility to how the transformation is going, to be able to maybe see around corners to some of the risks that other people in the organization might not see. They could be cash flow risks, financial risks, market risks, competitive risks. Sometimes I'm in a seat where I can see things kind of a little bit more from a distance that actually and sometimes creates more clarity around what the risk is. So the transformations that we're going through right now, transformation of moving to a recurring business a few years ago that is increasingly driven by Pega Cloud, which is our SaaS offering, in a market that is very digitally disrupted. Our clients and in general, the verticals that we operate in are really thinking about a new way to engage with consumers. COVID has certainly accelerated that, but that was happening long before COVID. People want to use, mobile phones to buy and communicate. They don't really interact necessarily always by walking into a store. So the transformation that's going on in the market also has helped to drive the transformation that's happening at Pega. And my role in that, I think, is to help steer the company, to help make sure that we get through those transformative events and actually capitalize on those and gain market share and even increase our growth momentum, which I think we've had a lot of success doing. So it's been fun. It's also been, you have to be maybe I would say even a non-traditional CFO, because you do need to be much more agile and be able to be think about the world is changing. And so getting stuck in multi-year kind of financial planning activities isn't always the best use of your time for the company. You need to really think about things change fast. Look how fast COVID was put upon us. And I do think that that's the fun part of being a CFO, is really being connected to the business and helping drive that transformation. So I'm really happy, the way that the company has evolved and my role in that.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because like I became a CFO in the 90s, and the role was so different. And not that they were, not that CFOs back then weren't as smart as CFOs today, but they would have been poorly prepared for this crisis because the role largely still, even in the 90s and early 2000s, was largely, backwards looking as opposed to forward looking, reporting what happened rather than making it happen. So if this had to happen, I think CFOs are certainly well prepared for it. So cool. And you'll be speaking at the CFO Masterclass in about a week. I think you're on Thursday the 12th, if I'm not mistaken. And why don't you share with us a little about what you and your panel are going to talk about?
Sure. There's a couple things that I've learned through my career of helping to drive change and being part of transformative events. And I think that the biggest thing that I've learned is not about the tactical activities that happen when you're going through a transformation. It's about connecting the organization with that journey and making sure that they're part of it, that they're enabled, that they're literate around why the change is happening, that they're excited, understand their role in it. And I think it's really important when you think about periods of change and transformation, that periods of change need to make sure that they're followed by periods of anchoring, right? So that you can actually allow the change to kind of form in the organization and that transformative event to actually be cemented as part of how you operate the business. And I think a lot of times companies will drive transformation almost without the empathy for the employees, and also without the thought that it's important that change not just be for a month or a quarter or a year, but it's a disruptive change that you want to leverage as the business moves forward. So I think two important points that I've learned is empathy for the employees and keeping them in partners and clients and keeping them on the journey. And also making sure that you give an appropriate amount of time to that anchoring concept to make sure that the change, the transformative action actually becomes part of the culture of the business so that you can actually leverage the exact evolution that you were trying to drive.
Wow, that sounds like that's going to be a fantastic panel. I know our members are going to learn a lot from that. So anyway, Ken, this is fantastic. Thanks again for your time. We look forward to seeing you at the CFO Masterclass on November 12th.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. It's going to be great. Look forward to it.